Hello and welcome to Joyful, the podcast that will help you live a more joyful life. I'm your host, Chloe Markham, and it's my mission to help you find more joy every single day. This podcast is a deep dive into ways to reduce your stress, your overwhelm, anxiety, and that voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough, whilst also diving into the methods, philosophies, and protocols that help us live more connected, grounded, and ultimately happier lives. This is about living life on purpose. Without any further ado, let's dive into today's episode. So this month is slow, and this particular session I want to talk about restorative yoga. But before we do that, so we're going to talk about restorative yoga. We're going to talk about why you need restorative yoga, and I'm going to tell you this incredible story that happened to me. It didn't happen to me, but anyway. Before we do that, I just want you to take a moment. So it's Monday morning, or wherever you're listening or watching this, how are you doing right now? What's going on with you? Can we take a moment to notice that stuff? Especially in this month of talking about slowing down. What is it like to slow down enough to recognize how you're doing? So for me, I'm doing all right. I am it's so interesting, isn't it? You kind of recover from a cold, like I have, and you're like, okay, bosh, let's do life again, let's do stuff again, and it's so interesting because it doesn't quite work like that. So I am just in this weird phase right now of not really moving. I haven't really moved my body. I haven't really done any yoga or anything for a couple of weeks, and I practiced yoga this morning and I felt tight and I felt weak and incapable, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just keep telling myself there's nothing wrong with that. It's so interesting, isn't it? But yeah, it's just a case of allowing ourselves to be tight and incapable and weak and tired, and that's okay. That's okay. I think, when was I talking about this? Maybe it was the last deep dive, but it's like, we know what's good for us, right? What's good for us is working out and eating healthy and going to bed early. And sometimes life isn't like that. Sometimes we can't work out. Sometimes the workouts are super beginner friendly or super slow or whatever. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, is just kind of allowing myself to slow down a bit and to be kind of a beginner again. It's okay, right? It's okay. And then what's really interesting in that as well, it's like, in my yoga class this morning, my yoga practice, I was like, okay, normally I can do this or I can do that, right? But actually, the key with all of it is just, how do I feel though? How do I feel if I do what I normally do? Oh, I don't feel so good, right? That's the key. And that's a topic for a whole other deep dive, but like feeling your practice, allowing yourself to not go as deep, man, that's harder than going deep, I swear. So that's how I'm doing. I'm doing all right. I've been sleeping well. I have a sleep tracker now, which is magical and wonderful. I recommend it. It's great. It's actually an Aura ring. I'm not affiliated or nothing, but I do find that it is fairly marvellous at keeping me aligned. You know what I mean? And keeping me focused on things and understanding what affects my sleep and therefore my mood, because I'm a massive princess and I need like 9 hours of sleep a night. Anyway, so slowing down and restorative yoga. So we spoke about Shavasana last week, and you know what, I think restorative yoga, more than anything else, is an intention. And I think that intention is, okay, if we're calling something restorative, what does that mean? And it kind of means what it says on the tin, you know what I mean? Restorative, what are we doing in our restorative yoga classes or sessions or whatever? They are about restoring us. It's like hitting factory settings, right? You know what I mean? Resetting to factory settings. Restoring factory settings. I get there in the end. So like we were talking about Shavasana, and I think really the conversation around restorative yoga is very similar to the conversation around Shavasana. And I was thinking about it in my session this morning, my yoga class this morning. Yoga, especially kind of a vinyasa class, is kind of representative of our energy in our lives, right? We push ourselves, there is exertion. There are times when we have to breathe and slow down despite discomfort. And I don't mean my hip hurts. I mean, oh my God, I'd rather just collapse in a heap right now because this is hard. That kind of discomfort. And that, again, a whole other conversation. And that's the kind of energy we have in a vinyasa class. But then obviously we start to slow down. And we slow down enough to completely in Shavasana, completely let go. And what I'm getting at is like, that's kind of representative of our lives, right? We need all of those things. We need the massive effort. We need the perseverance and the patience to deal with massive effort. And we also need massive ease and slowing down. So we build this kind of arc in our yoga classes. In a typical vinyasa class, lots of my classes work like that. We start slow, we build up, then we come down. And it's because all of those sections of energy we kind of need in our lives, they're kind of representative of our lives and the energy we output. But I think restorative yoga specifically is vital. And I'm saying this as someone who doesn't practice enough restorative yoga. We have a live class every Sunday night with Sarah. Why don't I go to that more often? And that's a question I'm genuinely asking myself right now. But look, I'm talking about, the energy of our yoga classes being representative of the energy of our lives, right? The problem with that is the energy of our lives is most of the time in this kind of society we live in is frantic, frenetic, constant. And we wonder why we burn out and we struggle. It's actually really interesting. I got a response to an email a couple days ago. And the email was about, we are, we call ourselves anxious. Like, I'm an anxious person, but I was in the email kind of distilling that slightly. You're not anxious. You have anxiety, much like you would have a toothache, right? And our society is set up for us to deal with toothache. Dentists exist, right? And it's a common thing. Hey, I'm going to go to the dentist. We don't feel weird about that. We just take ourselves to the dentist and we get that pain fixed. But when we have anxiety, we become anxiety. And you can replace anxiety with stress, depression, whatever. I'm talking about mental health, of course. So we become that. We don't become our toothache or our hip pain or whatever, but it's almost like the kind of the wording, the verbiage around it. I am anxious. I am depressed. And so in the email I was talking about, well, we need, kind of the mental health dentist, right? We have some anxiety or we have some depression or whatever it might be. So what's the dentist equivalent? You know what I mean? What's the tool that we can use to fix that? And someone replied to my email and said, as someone who's been suffering a long time, all my life, with these mental health issues, you can't say that. It's not as simple as toothache. And I think she missed my point, really. I think it's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that mental health issues like this, oh, they're just as simple as toothache. Let's go get it fixed. Quick ring to the dentist, an appointment next week, bosh, done. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, isn't it interesting that we have all these tools, and I have a point, I promise, for, you know, I go to a physio for my hip, and we get massages to relieve tension in our shoulders, and to the dentist, and to the doctors for all these physical maladies, whatever. Yet when it comes to our mental health, we don't really have that. It's very kind of niche. Like, you know what I mean? Even in the UK, you know, saying I go to therapy or counselling sessions is a little bit taboo. We kind of feel a little bit insecure talking about it. But what I'm saying and what I was writing in that email is, isn't it important that we make these things more prevalent and more kind of easily accessible and easily talked about, and we allow ourselves and that little nugget of anxiety, a big nugget of anxiety, whatever that struggle is with you right now, isn't it a time that we address that and say, hey, I'm going to go and like get that stuff fixed. I'm going to go and help myself feel better in this way. And my point with this is that yoga meditation, this kind of thing that we come back to all the time, is one of the tools that we need to make more readily available and more accessible, and more kind of, what do I mean, less taboo. I know yoga's not that taboo, but if, I suppose, like, you don't often see blokes, guys come into yoga, because it's like, you go to yoga? What's wrong with you? It's for old women. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is, like, yoga can be this tool to support us, and yoga is this tool. Now, specifically restorative yoga. So I know that I have some beginners tuning into this, so for beginners and for recaps for anyone else, restorative yoga is the intention, right? To restore us. So it's about slowing down, resting, shifting completely from our sympathetic do nervous system, kind of responding quickly, reacting quickly to the environment and to what the world and everybody in it and everything that happens, and coming into a slower space, allowing our nervous system to shift into that parasympathetic place. So effectively it is that Shavasana energy, but we elongate it to a half-hour session, 15-minute session, doesn't matter, does it, or an hour longer. And typically in a restorative class we would have bolsters and props. So bolsters, for those who don't know, it's like a big squishy pillow, cylindrical, kind of tube-like, filled with maybe some sort of grain or squishy pillow fibre. And they're big, right? They can be, I don't know, 3 foot? No, what's 3 foot? I don't think that's 3 foot. Like a metre? I don't know, God. I think 3 foot and a metre kind of works. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. They're big old cushions. Now, they're big and we use them because, oh, they're so squishy and lovely. We turn ourselves in a twist and we relax on them, or we use them to open up our chest and we like lie back on them, or we can fall forward on them. They can support our legs if we're, I don't know, whatever we're doing, we use them to support us. So if we're talking about energy, we've got yin and we've got yang. Now our yin energy is kind of what we're talking about. So if we go back to yang, that's the effort that I was talking about in our yoga class. We build up to this yang, this effort, this kind of like not forcing, but it is just effort, isn't it? It's energy, exerting energy. So our typical vinyasa class, you know, is about exerting energy. That's a yang energy. The yin energy is the opposite. So the yin energy is softness. So what we're doing with our props in restorative yoga is kind of providing the yang energy for us so that we can be more yin. By that I mean we're using the prop to help us open up our shoulders or twist or open up our inner thighs or fall forward, whatever it is, we're using the prop to support us in getting to that kind of opening, where we are then able to find a lot more yin. So it's a lot more softness, a lot more ease, right? It's that kind of peace, right? And yeah, easygoing, we do nothing. Now, the thing with the restorative yoga that's really interesting, so physically, we are just, of course, what I've just been waffling about, we are softening, right? We are allowing our body to completely let go, which can be challenging in itself, especially if you have like restless leg syndrome or things like that, or you're prone to fidgeting. It's about noticing those fidgets and those movements and allowing ourselves to kind of, okay, I notice what happens if I don't do that. And physically, as we soften, as we let go, as we lengthen our fascia, that connective tissue, it's actually kind of promoting ourselves to heal, to expand, to soften. And I'll get to the healing thing in a second, because that's a really big element of restorative yoga. But mentally, I find that really interesting because I'm very quick with everything I do. And I was thinking about this the other day. I was at a friend's house and I was playing piano, right? And I'm working toward my grade 5, which I'm really excited / nervous about. And I was playing this grade 5 piece that I'm working on my friend's piano. And I was like, why am I playing it so quickly? Why am I playing it so quickly? And I made loads of mistakes. And I was just like, get it over with, because why? I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, my neuroses about my piano playing is a whole different thing. But when I'm quick, somehow it's easier for me, but I make a lot of mistakes. It doesn't sound as good. But that's kind of like my pre-programmed speed. I have to work really hard to slow down in my piano. And it's not just my piano playing, it's everything. It's my entire life, right? So, and that's not just me. I know that that's the majority of people. So when we come to restorative yoga, it can be hard. Same as Shavasana. It can be really hard because we are pre-programmed to want to be entertained all the time and to do and to act and to think and to worry and to stress about things, right? That's what our society kind of sets us up to do. That's what our phones set us up to do. Like, ping, I got an email. Okay, I'm going to deal with that. Ping, I got an Instagram notification. Okay, it's time to deal, right? We're constantly being bombarded with stuff. So, of course, it's challenging. So, if you're listening to this right now and thinking, yeah, restorative yoga is hard for me. It's hard for everybody, pretty much. And that's kind of the point. Especially the first part of restorative yoga, any kind of class that you're having to settle into, it can be really challenging. If it's not challenging for you, then you have won life. Like, well done. Keep doing restorative yoga. Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? Do we get better at it? I think we do, and that's the point. That's the point. So, I told you it's a waffle town. Where am I going with this? Right. That's the thing. It's like meditation, which I think I'm talking about next week. The mental side of our restorative yoga practice is so important because it challenges us, just like my piano playing, to slow down. Just like my teacher who yells at me every week to slow down. Restorative yoga is the same thing without the yelling. She doesn't yell, she's wonderful. But it's a practice in slowing down. It's not easy, and especially the first 5-10 minutes of your class won't be an easy practice. Your mind will probably be running. Sometimes in Shavasana, you'll be thinking about stuff and thinking, and that's okay. That's, again, we're pre-programmed to do this. The practice then is not necessarily the physicality, although that's wonderful. We get to open up our spines, we get to open up our hips, our back bodies, shoulders, chest, whatever it is in our yoga practice, our restorative class. But for me, as I get older, the most important thing about a restorative class is allowing my head and my body, first of all, to reconnect. You know, they're not separate things as much as our society tells us they are. They're not separate things. So that reconnection to happen and everything just to slow down, just to be okay with right now, with the mess in the room, with, I don't know, for me, it's always my imperfect business. I want to do more. I want to do different things with whatever. It's okay. And that mental practice is a meditation. It is a meditation. And for me, that's the biggest thing in restorative yoga, is just forcing myself to not do anything. And more than that, forcing myself to let everything go, right? It's hard and necessary, folks. You know, like I was saying last week, the nervous system stuff. The place, the nervous system place that you're living from right now will literally change the way that you view and interact with reality. And so we want our view of reality and our interactions with the world to be positive, right? Of course we do. Everyone wants to be happy. And I truly believe that yoga itself does that. Meditation itself does that. But I think restorative yoga is a really vital tool, like the dentist I was talking about earlier. It's a really important tool in our toolkit to, allow us to shift into more peace, more ease, physical ease, mental ease. So I really want to drive home the healing power of this. So I have a story I want to tell you. It's amazing, and I feel blessed to be able to tell this. So most of you guys know I had a studio in York pre-COVID, and it was beautiful. And I had a student come. She was brilliant. She was great, as are all my students. Love them all. And I think she was coming for a little while. I knew her, you know. And then I didn't see her for a while, and she came back to the studio, and she pulled me to one side and we spoke for a moment, and her speech was really different. So she was stuttering a lot. It was suddenly, you know, she's gone from speaking like I'm speaking to you right now to having a really severe speech impediment. She took a lot of time to get her words out. And anyway, the reason for that was she was at work and she had something fell on her, and she had a really bad head injury. Obviously, really bad head injury for it to affect her speech. But she was, man, it was awful, really. The social implications of that were really big for her. I think they would be for anybody. Can you imagine, you know, losing the ability to speak normally? Man, it was a big deal for her socially. You know, she was very social before, and this really affected her confidence. Of course it would do. You know, you can empathize with that. It would be horrible. Anyway, so she started to come. She didn't want to come to my vinyasa classes. She wanted to come to my big calms, which are my restorative classes, where we literally do as little as possible in an hour. Right, so we had bolsters, we had underfloor heating, the lights were low, you know, the music was really ambient and drone-like, and it's this kind of soporific atmosphere that helps you get drowsy and slow. And so she started coming to these classes, and she was enjoying them. And after a while of her coming to these classes, we were speaking. We were in the studio post class. The classes ended, and we were chatting about something. And I was like, "Hey, your speech is basically normal. What's going on?" This was maybe 3 or 4 months after her injury. And she was like, yeah, she's been going to speech therapy, but she said the biggest thing that has helped her get back to normal, for her, normal, and to feel better and more confident and heal from this huge traumatic injury was the restorative yoga. And I always knew restorative yoga is powerful and magical and can heal us. But that kind of healing from her was really humbling and really mind-blowing, you know? So I'm telling you this story because I want us to take it, us, me included, I want us to take it more seriously. The positive impact of restorative yoga. It's not just nice to have, or let's slow down. You know, you might not be suffering with a speech impediment due to a massive brain injury. Most of us aren't, thankfully. But what are you suffering with? And maybe it is just some light day-to-day anxiety. Maybe you have depression. Maybe you have other mental health issues. Maybe you have physical health issues. You know, it doesn't matter. Why don't we turn to a restorative yoga class? And of course, I'm not saying ignore medication, ignore your doctors. I am not a medical professional, and I'm never going to pretend to be. But what I'm saying is, the dentist being the tool that we use for our teeth, can we use restorative yoga as a tool to help us heal our minds and our bodies in a more kind of holistic way? It's a powerful, powerful practice, and I really hope you get to go and practice with some restorative soon. So Sundays, just a reminder, in the TYR membership, Sarah teaches a big calm class. That is our squishy, soft restorative class. And there are plenty of other restorative classes in the on-demand library. And actually, the classes that I'm recommending this week are obviously both restorative. One of them is one of Sarah's. She's a magical restorative queen. So I'm sharing that with you, and also a shorter, what I called R&R class that I filmed a while ago. Those are our classes this week. So you might be in an energetic trajectory right now and all over your vinyasa, which is fine, and I salute you. But I also want you to see if you can incorporate some of these restorative things, one of these classes, into this week. Especially if you don't want to, because we struggle, I do. It's hard to find the time to do nothing, and it seems a little bit counterintuitive. Wait, I'm not being productive, I'm not getting stronger, I'm not getting fitter, I'm not working on my tone or my abs or whatever, my booty gains. I'm not doing any of that, so it seems kind of pointless. Please just ignore that part of your brain that is sabotaging you and have my words ringing through your mind and let them help you to make the decision to take restorative classes this week. Thank you, folks, for joining me, and here's to some slowing down. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening, my friend. I hope you're feeling sparkly and inspired to live a more joyful life. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a rating. These things are invaluable to me, and share it with people who need it. This is about inspiring more people to be more connected and lead happier and more joyful lives. Join my inner circle for more inspiration. Learn more at the website theyogarevolution.co.uk and chloemarkham.co.uk. I'll see you in the next episode.